Good morning. Today we are reviewing for the Systems of Linear Equations unit test. So today you should watch the video, this video obviously, and you should be copying the review problems onto the Jamboard or a separate piece of paper if you prefer to do that, and then just either attach it to your assignment or just email it to me. But either way, you should be copying down the work and submitting it for a grade. We will have a test tomorrow. So if you get through this review and you still have some questions, feel free to email me and let me know so I can help you before the test tomorrow. So let's get started. Number one, we're solving the following systems of equations by using substitution. So substitution is the method where we solve for either x or y for one of our equations, and we substitute it into the other equation. So the first one here is actually already solved for y. So we don't have to show the work there since it's already solved for y. We can get straight to the substitution. So we know y is equal to 3x plus 4. I'm going to plug in 3x minus 4. So I'm going to plug in 3x minus 4 where this y is. So I have 4x plus 3 times y, but it's really 3x minus 4, and that's equal to 1. Now that I only have x's in my equation, I can do some work in order to solve for x, and then I'll be able to find my x term. So the first thing in this problem we have to do is distribute here. So this 4x stays the same, and I'm going to distribute 3 to the 3x, which really means multiply. So I get 9x, and then 3 times negative 4 is negative 12, and that's equal to 1. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So here you'll see I have 4x and 9x. I'm going to combine those to get 13x minus 12 equals 1. Everything stays the same. Now it's a simple two-step equation where I can add 12 to both sides. Negative 12 plus 12 cancels. I'm left with 13x equals 13. And finally, divide each side by 13. Cross off the 13s because 13 divided by 13 is 1. And again, 13 divided by 13 is 1. So it looks like our x value here is 1. So from here, since I know x, now I need to solve for y. So I can take x equals 1, and I can substitute that now into either equation. Doesn't matter which one you choose. I always say take the easiest way. We're solving for y, and in the first equation, y is already by itself. So that's the one that I'm going to choose to substitute for x equals 1 into. So I have y equals 3 times x, but I know that x is 1, and then I subtract 4. And I just simplify this. 3 times 1 is 3 minus 4, and I get a final answer of negative 1. So my final answer here is a point, which is the point 1, negative 1. Okay, so that is our final answer. I'll zoom out. So if you need to still copy this, pause the video and copy. Okay, number 2, solve the following systems of equations by using elimination. So it's very important when we are solving these problems that you're using the method that it says, whether it be elimination or substitution. You need to make sure you're following these rules. Okay, so elimination is where we add the two equations together in order to cancel off either the x terms or the y terms. So one of them should be positive, one should be negative, and it should be the same number. So it should be like positive 10x, negative 10x, then they can cancel each other off. Okay, so you can do this a number of different ways. How I choose to start it might be different than the way that you choose to start it. However, you should get the same answer. So what pops out to me is 5 can easily be changed into 10. by multiplying it by 2. Also, I want to make sure that I have one positive and one negative. So 5 times 2 gives me 10, but I'm going to multiply by negative 2 because I really want it to be a negative 10. So when I do that, I have to distribute here. I have to distribute to each and every term in this equation. So I'll get negative 2 times 5x gives me negative 10x. Negative 2 times y is negative 2y. And negative 2 times 9 gives me negative 18. My second equation is going to stay exactly the same. I'm just going to copy it down. Now the elimination part, this is where the elimination part comes in, is if I add them, what happens here is negative 10x plus 10x cancels. And I'm going to add everything else. So negative 2y plus negative 7y gives me negative 9y. Negative 18 plus negative 18 gives me negative 36. Okay, and then this is a simple one-step equation to solve for y. I'm going to divide each side by negative 9. Negative 9s will cancel, and I'm left with a positive 4. So y is positive 4. So now that I have 4 to be equal to y, I'm going to go back to either equation and substitute in y in order to solve for x. So I'm going to plug it into our first equation just because y is by itself and I don't know, might look a little bit easier. So I have 5 times x plus y, which is 4, equals 9. I'm going to subtract 4 from each side, and I'm left with 5x equals 5. Lastly, I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and I'll get x equals 1. So my final answer here is 1, 4. Okay. And again, you can always go back and check if this is right by plugging in a 1 for x and a 4 for y into both of these equations to make sure that it is true. Now, you don't have to show that work, but you can quickly type it in your calculator just to make sure. Number 3, we are graphing the following systems of equations, and we have to make sure we identify the solution. So we want to graph both of these on this graph. Okay, it's important though to make sure that our equations are in y equals mx plus b format. Okay, so we always want to have the y by itself. It looks like our second equation, y is by itself. However, the first one is not. So that's going to be my first step here. I have negative 4x plus y equals 3. So I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. So the 4x's will cancel, and I'll have y equals 4x plus 3. So the equations that I'm going to graph are y equals 4x plus 3 and y equals negative x minus 2. Okay, but I don't have to graph them on my own. I can use my calculator, the Desmos calculator. So I'm going to graph negative x minus 2. So negative x minus 2. And I want to get a couple points on my graph that I can show. So I go to the table, and I have all nice points here. You want to make sure that they're nice points, meaning whole numbers. If it's a decimal, just feel free to either add a number in, or you can come in here and you can hover over, and when you click, it will hold down the point for you so you can see where the points are. Okay, so these are some of the points that we're going to plot. So I have negative 2, 0. I'm going to start there. So while you're graphing, you need to make sure that I can easily see on your graph the points. I know your lines aren't going to be perfect. My lines are not perfect, but you need to make sure that I can see the points so that I know you definitely looked at the graph and that you have, you're graphing the line the correct way. So again, we're going to graph -2, 0. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. A lot of times when you zoom in more, it's a little bit easier. So -2, 0. I have -1, 1. Or -1, -1, right? Yep. Which is here. And the last point was 0, -2. So 3 points is plenty. 2 points is probably even plenty. But you want to make sure that you're graphing them in the correct spot, okay? So now that I have the points and they are right on the grid, my line's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. Now I'm going to graph 4x plus 3, and I'm going to graph it in the second spot here because I do want to see where they cross. So 4x plus 3. And wherever these points cross is going to be the solution. So I can even come to my graph and identify what that point is. It's right there. Okay. So when I come here, I have my graph. And here are a couple points. So -2, -5, -1, -1, and 0, 3. I'm going to plot those points. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to change color just so I can see the difference between my two lines. And again, I have -2, -5. There's my first point. Then I have the point -1, -1, which is right here, which is awesome that they cross because that's going to be our solution. And I'm just going to graph one more point, 0, 3. Okay, so then now that I have these 3 points, I'm going to do my best to draw a straight line. But what's important here is to identify the point where they crossed. And that point was -1, -1. That is our final answer, okay? As I was looking through some assignments where you were practicing graphing, a lot of people graphed it on our coordinate plane, which is great, but you didn't actually identify where it crossed. Okay, so you want to make sure you take out that point, this -1, -1, and you write it so that I know that you are identifying that this is the solution. And again, you can always check by plugging in x and y for -1, -1 into each of these. And if it's true, then you know you graphed it right. And you know that your solution is correct. All right, number 4. Graph the following systems of inequalities. Then we're going to mark an S to mark the solution set. So this is very similar to graphing equations. You're going to still use Desmos. You still want it to be in y equals format, y equals mx plus b format. But the only difference is we have to ask ourselves, is our line going to be dotted or is it going to be solid? Remember, less than or greater than is a dotted line. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to is a solid line. And again, we have to figure out where we are shading. When we have inequalities, we want to shade because there's more than one solution to an inequality. So if it is greater than, you shade above. If it is less than, you shade below. So y is greater than x minus 4. That's already in y equals mx plus b format. So I'm going to come to Desmos. I'm going to get these out of here. And I'm going to graph. I don't have to put the y in or the inequality symbol, but I do have to just put that x minus 4 in. Okay, then I'm going to get some points from my graph so I can graph them. So I'm going to pick 2, 3 points to graph. It doesn't matter which ones you choose, just choose a couple. So I have -2, -6. So I'm going to start there. So negative 2, negative 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a point right there. Maybe I'll do 0, negative 4. And 2, negative 2. Once I plot my points, I have to figure out dashed or dotted. Greater than means dashed. When you have that equal sign under there, then it's solid. Right now it's going to be dashed. So that's my first step. Dashed line. Make sure you extend it to the end of the graph so you can see. And then it's greater than, that means we're going to shade above the line. Okay, so all of these numbers above this line are included in this solution set. Okay. Next, we're going to graph the second inequality. So I have y plus x is greater than or equal to 2. So this one is not in y equals mx plus b format. So I want to subtract x from both sides. I want to get y by itself. So the inequality symbol stays the same, negative x plus 2. Don't forget here, the inequality symbol will flip if you're solving for y. It will flip if you multiply or divide by a negative number. Then it's going to flip. Okay, we didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, so therefore it stayed the same. So we want to graph negative x plus 2. Negative x plus 2. And I want a couple points. So I'm going to convert to table. So I'm going to choose 3 points from here. Doesn't matter which ones. But please make sure when you're graphing them, again, you put nice dots on the graph so I can easily see those points. So let's do negative 2, negative 4. Negative 2, negative 4 is right here. And we'll do 0, 2, 0, 2. And then 2, 0. Did I mess something up? Negative 2, 4. Sorry, my bad. So it should be negative 2, positive 4. 1, 2, 3. It should be up here. That makes more sense. And then let's do 2, 0. Okay, so there's my 3 points. Now I have to ask myself, is it dotted, or is it solid? And since it's greater than or equal to, I have a solid line. So I'm going to draw a line as best I can to make it straight. And if it's greater than, I want to shade above the line. So anything that's greater, above is going to be this way. And remember, our solution set is anything that's in the double shaded area. Okay, so I want to mark an S on my solution set. So the S is going to be right here. This whole double shaded region, any point from this double shaded region, when you plug it in, you will get true inequalities. Okay, so you want to make sure you mark that S here and mark it so that I know that it's there. A lot of times using different colors is very helpful, especially with using Jamboard. Okay, so again, make sure you're copying everything down because you should be handing this in for an assignment grade. Okay, we're going to go through one more example together. This one we're going to be writing a system of equations and solving it from the word problem. So it says Jacob and Zachary go to the movie theater and purchase refreshments for their friends. Jacob spends a total of $18.25 on 2 bags of popcorn and 3 drinks. Zachary spends a total of $27.50 for 4 bags of popcorn and 2 drinks. Write a system of equations that can be used to find the price of 1 bag of popcorn and the price of 1 drink. And then we're going to use these equations to solve to see how much a bag of popcorn costs and how much a drink costs. So first thing, we know we're going to have X, we know we're going to have Y. So I'm going to just automatically say that X is the popcorn, X represents popcorn, and Y represents a drink. Doesn't matter if you put, vice versa, if you put X as the drink or Y as popcorn, it doesn't matter. But you should identify which one is going with which. Okay, so the first equation is $18.25 for 2 bags of popcorn and 3 drinks. So 2 bags of popcorn. Well, X represents the number of bags of popcorn that we buy. So that's going to be 2X. And when you're spending a total, that means we're going to add 3 drinks to that. So 3 times the price of the drink, which we don't know, but we know that Y represents drinks. So 2 bags of popcorn is 2X. 3 drinks is 3Y. And that's going to be equal to our $18.25. Okay, and our second equation, well, we spent $27.50 for 4 bags of popcorn and 2 drinks. Okay, so very similar to the one before. We have 4 bags of popcorn, so that's 4X plus 2 drinks, 2Y, and that's equal to $27.50. So that right there is my system of equations. Okay. From here, it says to use these equations to solve for both X and Y. It does not say to graph it. It does not say to use substitution or elimination. You get to choose here which method you want to use to solve this. So what I'm going to choose is elimination. Okay, so if I have 2X plus 3Y equals 18.25, and I have 4X plus 2Y equals 27.50, what I see is I can multiply this by -2 and distribute. Therefore, I'm going to distribute everything here. -2 times 2X is -4X. Oh, I don't want to put that plus sign there. -2 times 3Y is -6Y. -2 times 18.25, just use our calculator quick, -2 times 18.25, I'll get -36.5 equals -36.5 or 0.50 since we're talking about money. And then I'm going to carry down 4X plus 2Y equals 27.50. Okay, so this right here, I'm going to be able to eliminate the X values because -4X plus 4X is 0. And I have -6Y plus 2Y gives me -4Y equals -36.50 plus 27.50. Let's see. -36.50 plus 27.50 gives me -9. Okay, and last I'm going to divide both sides by -4. So 9 divided -9 divided by -4 gives me 2.25. So for y, that's a drink. We know that a drink costs $2.25. Now we have to figure out how much popcorn costs. So we can start writing our sentence. Popcorn costs. Well, how we figure out popcorn is we take our y and we plug it into either one of these equations. It doesn't matter here. Just pick one and plug it in. So I'm going to choose this one, 4x plus 2y, but instead of that y, I'm going to put 2.25, and that should be equal to 2750. So now I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. So I have 4x plus 450 equals 2750. I'm going to subtract 450 from each side. And I have 4x equals 23. And I'm going to divide each side by 4. So 23 divided by 4 gives me 575. So a drink costs $2.25 and popcorn costs $5.75. So that's going to be our final answer here. Okay, so we wrote our system of equations and then we used any method we wanted. It didn't matter. What does matter though is you must show all of your work there. And then in the end, just make sure you are identifying what your answer actually is. Okay, so the question is asking, determine the price of a bag of popcorn and the price of a drink. So we made sure we wrote those down over here. Okay, so this is what's going to be on your test tomorrow. It's going to look very similar to this review. Obviously not the same exact problems, but you're going to have to be able to do solving systems by elimination, by substitution, by graphing. Also, you should know how to graph an inequality and identify what the solution set is. And you should also be able to write a system of equations from a word problem. So if you are still having trouble with this, please let me know. And maybe we can set up a time after school today to meet for some extra help. Okay, so please review for your test tomorrow. And don't forget to hand this assignment in. Have a great day, guys.